Well, Lonnie Walker getting hurt after 4 minutes wasn't part of the plan this week, but hopefully he's back for the next 2 games that Brooklyn plays. Hamstring tightness. Hopefully he plays tonight. We'll see. So this is going to be your first look at game week 31. I'm going to run through the top plays overall this week. Also going to run through by cap number. And of course on Friday I'll have updated minute projections. So right now we're just looking at players to watch this week. All right, if you're new here, the yellow means proceed with caution. These are guys I picked that I kind of like, but we're watching certain things that may contribute to them getting more or less minutes. And the green are the best plays at their particular L10, in my opinion, as of Tuesday morning here. This could change through the week, so you'll want to watch for Friday's video. That'll show you the updated projections. I'll update the minutes as the week goes on, which obviously changes their top-end projections. We'll give you the best ones going into the weekend at each level. Brandon Pajemski in Golden State getting huge minutes, 37 minutes a night. Biggest difference between his top end of his normal range of outcomes and his current L10 of 25. Only one game for Golden State, but there are a lot of teams with one game this weekend, a couple with none. Just be careful making those lineups. You obviously don't want to put somebody in there who isn't going to play. Omaruyi, who we talked about yesterday a little bit. Going to watch and see what happens with Washington. There's a pretty good chance he just goes right back to the bench if Kuzma's back. So he may be a 0 expected minutes by the weekend and then obviously out of play. Scottie Pippen, same deal. Don't know who's coming back for Memphis yet, so we'll see if he keeps playing or if they send him back to the G League again. Jordan Nora actually played quite a bit last night, but it was a big blowout. Probably wouldn't have played close to that if RJ Barrett was in the lineup, and I expect RJ Barrett to come back. Pretty strange with RJ Barrett. He missed a bunch of time, and he came back and played 43 minutes and then missed the next game. So I don't think he's injured. I think they're just managing him, but then why throw him out there for 43 minutes? It doesn't make any sense. Toronto's a mess. Precious Achiuwa in New York. OG Anunoby is still out. I don't really have a timetable for him. He's been out a long time. As long as he's out, Achiuwa is going to be getting big minutes. When he comes back, I think that cuts into it, so that's why he's yellow. Trae Young's a great play. Almost the same level as Pajemski for a difference between that top end of his normal range of outcomes and his L10 score. 21.5. Really good. 2 games for Atlanta this weekend, so he's a great play. DiVincenzo in New York. 1 game again. 55 for a top end for him, though. He's just playing so many minutes. He's really productive. 21 in between his high-end score and his L10 of 34. So, LeBron's a great play right now. They're just giving him so many minutes. Damian Lillard, that's the first time I've seen him hit this board. Mathurin, if you need a lower 20s guy, he's been getting a little more time on the floor. Can obviously explode. So here's the overall list. And I will let you pause the video and take a look at that if you want. Get into the cap numbers, starting at 0 and moving up. Nothing until we get to 7. Kevin Knox, don't like this guy, but he is playing. He's getting between 15 and 20 minutes a lot of these nights. I got him for 17 right now. That would put his high end upside of his normal range just under 23, and for a 7 L10, that's definitely playable. Don't know how safe his minutes are, but pretty safe it seems, so I'd recommend him this weekend if you need a low L10. At 8, Bryce McGowens has played more than I thought he would last night. Competitive game with the Lakers. Cody Martin is out. Cody Martin comes back. I think it cuts into McGowan's minutes, but right now Cody Martin's out. I think you can expect 20 to 25 with Cody Martin out, and that puts him in play. A little over 20 for a high end. At an 8, playable. It's not great, but it's playable. I do like Quinones in Golden State. He's getting in the low 20s as well. His top end just under 26 for a 9. That's definitely playable. Bruno Fernando played last night, played 14 minutes. I expect him to get a little more as the games go by. I was kind of hoping for 17 or 18. I think we may get there. That would obviously drive his top end up a little further into the same range as Quinones. 2 games for Fernando this week. Definitely a guy in play. Omaruyi, we're just watching right now. Jaden Springer. I'm a little concerned that when Nick Batum comes back from injury, Springer goes back to the bench, but right now he's the bench player that's still in the rotation. Korkmaz really wasn't last night. Played in garbage time. Springer actually got over 20 minutes again. 2 games for Philly over the weekend. He's still in 11, so he's in play. Najee Marshall, you can always play him. He's still at 12. He's getting low 20s minutes, which means he can put up high 20s points. 2 games for the Pelicans. Kevin Love in Miami. 13 L10s, pretty low for him. Only 1 game, but he can get you in the high 20s if he's knocking down shots. 1.21 points a minute. At 14, we're watching Nora. I think by the weekend he could be irrelevant again. Sam Hauser is just a consistent player in Boston. He's going to be in there every game. He's been getting in the low 20s in minutes, so a little up from where he was probably 2 weeks ago. L10 of 14 and get you in the high 20s probably. And 2 games for the Celtics over the weekend. Gilliard we're watching closely in Memphis. We'll see if he's still playing this weekend. Marcus Morris has 2 games for Philly. 21 minutes expected. I would think he might come up from there even. 15 L10 still pretty decent for him. If he can get a few more minutes, we've seen this guy score in the 30s a couple times this year, so not a bad play at 15. Scottie Pippen, another guy in Memphis we're watching closely. We'll see what happens this week. Play at 16 for me is Mo Bamba, another Philadelphia 76er. 2 games this weekend. He can definitely get you in the low 30s. In the 3 games since Embiid went down, 18, 18, and 16 minutes. So I put him at 18. That puts him right around 32 for a top end of his normal range. 1.24 minutes, still very good. We'll see if that sticks as he starts playing more, but I have a feeling it will. He's a pretty productive guy when he's out there. If he's knocking down any shots, he can certainly get you some decent scores. Malik Beasley in Milwaukee is a 17. Pretty steady minutes in the low 30s. When his three-point shot is falling, he can get you 30 to 35, I would say. Not a bad play for a 17. Lou Dort at 18. With Oklahoma City a little banged up, he's been getting a few more minutes lately, and he's been producing offensively. Not a real productive guy, but if he's getting big enough minutes, he can certainly hit you for 35 or so. Walker, obviously, we're watching the hamstring injury to see if he gets back out there. If he doesn't, you got another guy at 19 on his team that's probably going to take some of his minutes. So Dennis Smith's a good replacement play for Walker. If you want to add both of those guys, you can go with one or the other depending on what the news on Walker turns out to be. Dennis Smith's top end, pretty similar, about 35, and he actually may get more minutes if Walker is out. Paul Reed, we're back to Philadelphia. At the 20 level, I'd say he's very playable. 2 games this weekend. He hasn't been good lately, but that doesn't mean he won't have a big game. 1.03 points a minute, 22 minutes expected. I would say he can certainly get more than that if he's having a good game. And at 22 minutes, his top end's about 35, so do with that what you will. Another guy we're watching in Memphis, John Conchar, is up to 21, expected minutes of 30. If he can get 30 minutes, I'd say his top end's right around 35. Questionable today. We'll see if he's out there. Thad Young in Toronto, the minutes are coming down a little bit. And now Gary Trent left last game with lower back stiffness. I think he's still going to get some minutes. I don't know if he's going to get 25 anymore, but I think we're in that 15 to 20 range right now. I'm going to put him at 20. And if you put him at 20, high end of 30. There are better options here. At 22, Benedict Mathurin, I think, is a great play this weekend. Getting more minutes. Hield's minutes have been coming down. Mathurin's been going up. Only 1 game for the Pacers, but over 40 for a top end. And I think he can do better than that. He's a guy who does get some high-end outliers here and there. At 23, you're riding Precious Achiuwa until the Achiuwa train stops, I guess. That was awful. If you want a different option here at 23, it's a big drop-off, but I would say your best option is going to be Trey Murphy. 23 is pretty low for him. He's been getting in the upper 20s in minutes, and he can certainly score 2 games for New Orleans. At 24, I really like Malik Monk. His minutes are coming up as Kevin Huerter's come down right now. He's been playing pretty well. 2 games for the Kings over the weekend. 42.5 for a top-end projection on a 24 is really good, and 1.08 per minute. Very nice. Pajemski, we touched on. He would be your top difference between top end and L10 this week. L10 at 25, getting 37 minutes for a top end, a little over 47. Nice play at 25. Kelly Oubre at 26, still under 40. Josh Giddey playing a little more with the OKC injuries. L10 down to 27, minutes up to 28, and top end just under 40. 2 games for OKC. Rozier in Miami may have finally become useful here. Top end for him just under 45, 1 game for the Heat. But an L10 of 28, pretty low for a guy that's certainly capable of having a big night. He hasn't really had a big night for the Heat yet, but I think it's probably coming. 0.9 a minute. He's a good player. I'd give him a shot at 28. Bogdan Bogdanovic is up to 29. He's had a couple of nice games. His minutes have come back from the high 20s to the low 30s. 2 games for Atlanta over the weekend. 1.05 points a minute. Good player. Go ahead and get him in. JV in New Orleans. They've got 2 games. This guy's really productive. 1.22. He just doesn't play a ton of minutes. 27's about where he's been at for the last couple of games, and that puts him right in the mid-40s if he has a nice night, so you can certainly play him at 30. Not a bad play this weekend. Jeremy Grant, we're watching to see if he gets back on the floor on Thursday. If he does, he turns out to be a pretty good play this week. Top end just under 50 at 31. That's really good. If he's not out there, Ayton is your second choice here. If you watch my videos, you know how I feel about Ayton. Not my favorite player, but he's been decent lately. He'll have his good games and his terrible games. 32, Derek White isn't my highest projected guy, but he is my choice. 2 games for the Celtics. Close enough to the other 32s that I'd prefer Derek White. CJ McCollum, top 33. There are only 2 of them, and Tari Eason's out. Little under 50, but 2 games. DiVincenzo, one of your best plays of the week at a 34. Top end, over 55. 1 game for the Knicks, and obviously he's going to get big minutes, so don't be afraid to put him in. Brogdon, your top 35, and it's a big gap down to Jalen Green, but with Fred VanVleet out, I think Jalen Green may get some more usage. 2 games for Houston over the weekend, 0.96 a minute. Not bad for Jalen Green. If we look at his numbers, he's averaged 6.2 field goals made on 15 attempts. I mean, that's a terrible percentage, but he has had a nice stretch recently, so maybe he pops for a big one with Fred VanVleet gone. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on Thursday with Brogdon before we make a determination here. RJ Barrett, I put him down at 36 minutes. That's, of course, assuming he's on the floor. We'll see if he's back. I'm going to have to watch him this week to see what's going on with Toronto. There aren't a whole lot of other great options, and he does have 2 games. Brandon Ingram had a huge game last night. 37 L10. He's projected just under 50, but 2 games. He's your best 37 in my opinion. 38, it's Chet. Most people can't afford to buy a Chet. I understand. I don't have one either. If you want a cheaper option, you can go Kyle Kuzma here. 2 games for the Wizards, assuming he's back from injury. Scotty Barnes, the projection's finally starting to come down. I think this trade has really messed with his value. 39 L10 for him. He's projected just under 55. I think these projections are too high on him since Quickly got there, and RJ Barrett has taken a lot of usage and shots. Barnes' numbers have just been down across the board, but this is a really talented guy. Jalen Johnson, another good option here in Atlanta. Damian Lillard at 40 is your top 40, and it's not close. DeJounte Murray is your top 41. He has 2 games. James Harden, best 42 by a mile. Şengün, I think, is going to get a lot of usage with VanVleet down. He's going to be kind of running the high post, probably getting more assists. We'll see what happens with that. He's projected over 50 with 2 games. That could be higher, I would think. Trae Young, great play. 44 L10, 65 for an estimate on the high end of his normal range in 2 games. If I had a Trae Young, he would be in. LeBron's a great play at 45, just 1 game, but they're giving him 40 minutes a night right now. That puts him up in the same range as Trae Young. I like Tatum just slightly better than Steph Curry, just because Tatum has an extra game. Sabonis over Kawhi, just because of the extra game, and he's projected just a tad higher. Brunson at 49, big gap down to Durant. Brunson's just playing so many minutes right now. Hard to ignore him. And then Davis is going to be your top 51 over Devin Booker, and that one's not close either. And then you get to your superstars, and the best of your superstars probably going to end up getting these minutes for Luka back down into the mid-30s by the end of the week. He played 36 last night with Kyrie back, and I think that's going to be a little more of his normal routine with Kyrie. His production was way down last night. We may not see another 80 from Luka for a while. I think he's probably going to head back into the 50s and 60s here with Kyrie shouldering some of the load. Giannis and Jokic, both in that 75 range. I think either of those are good plays, obviously. SGA up over 70 with 2 games. But actually, at this level, you can play any of these guys anytime, and they're never bad plays. Anybody with a 1.45 or higher Sorare points per minute average, those are your superstars, capable of huge things. This will get you started on who to watch this week. Pick up who you need. I'll try to keep you updated with comments under this post. Friday, we will update all the minutes, and I will put out another video giving you an updated look at who I like at each cap number. Well, good luck this week in game week 30, and obviously we're looking ahead to game week 31 this weekend. Thanks for watching.